we see the outline there. We have the international organization and the global environment. That's the content. Those with the to know how we manage human resource globally, internationally. So we'll cover multinational companies, how to manage people globally, internationally. Then we'll look at organizational forms and structures in the international competitive markets. We'll look at organizational forms and structures in the international competitive markets. Then we'll look at staffing the international organization. We'll look at expatriation or cross-national movements. We'll look at the challenges of culture and cultural adjustment of expatriates, the training needs, managing expatriates, and so on and so forth. Today, I want us today to look at the international organization and the global environment. That's the first thing we would look at. I'm sure when we're doing undergraduate studies, some of us did international business. Those who did management. We did international business. Yes. So at the postgraduate level, our goal is to know how, because we have decided to specialize in HRM, how the international business is supposed to be managed. That is what we are going to look at this semester so far as the international human resource management is concerned. Why do we need to look at this? Because international business is dynamic. It is dynamic. It keeps changing. There is competition out there. You are faced with competitors no matter where you are crossing to. Different jurisdiction and how you are supposed to operate. That means it's not okay to move your business across border and want to operate the business as though you are still in your country of establishment. As of now, I'm not using the technical words yet. When we get to the various topics, you know the technical words. So you can't go to, let's say, Côte d'Ivoire, and you want to start up your business, and you want to go and manage the business as though you are still in Ghana. It doesn't work that way. Neither can you stay in China, start your firm in China, try to come and start one. For now, I'll use the word branch. Want to come and start a branch in Ghana, and you want to operate the work as though you are still in China. Neither does it work that way. That means international business keeps changing, and wherever you get to, you have to adjust in accordingly. Why do we even need to know about international human resource management? We have learned about managing human resource strategically, but we didn't get to know how we apply that in the international context. But because of globalization, now there are no trade barriers. No trade barriers. a lot of trade walls are removed. So organizations are able to cross borders to go and establish their businesses. ECOWAS country, you can go anywhere to establish your business. Free to go, trade barriers removed. United Nations, so we say, all of us are united. That means you can go to the US and start your business. That's why in the worst case scenario, at least we have something like African markets in every country. Why? Because there's no trade barrier again. Everybody is free to work anywhere, and that's a way to promote unity amongst nations. That means if you are crossing barriers, then you should know how you should manage your employees. Then again, because knowledge has become universal, we are all learning the same thing. What we are learning here today for international human resource management, somebody in India will learn same. Somebody in the US will learn same. That means at the end of this course, whoever reads human resource management MBA, the person is also going to read international human resource management and other courses you are doing this semester and have done already. Something cuts across your transcripts that makes you marketable globally. In conclusion, that means you can also look for jobs beyond Ghana. This is my reason for grilling and drilling you like that. I want you to be active in the brain so that you can be well positioned for international opportunities as well. That means that if you can equally apply to work for the UN, you can apply to work for Toyota Japan, you can apply to work for Unilever, Mercedes, yes, name them. That means you should know how you are supposed to be managed. What applies if you are crossing certain jurisdiction. This is the reason we learn international human resource management. It's not only for the business that wants to cross the border, but for you, the human capital that would want to look for global opportunity. Beyond your postgraduate studies, you can target high. And for you to target high, you should know how you are supposed to be managed internationally. So when we talk about international human resource management, it is defined as an interplay among three dimensions of human resource activities. That is the type of employees, human resource activities, and then the countries an organization operates in. We look at the human resource activities, and then when we talk about international human resource management, we will get to know, those who didn't do international business, that organization comes in different types, and the type of your organization also dictates how you manage your employees. So we look at the type of organization, we look at the human resource activities, and then the types of employees. We'll get to know of all these things in the chapters coming. So human resource management from the international perspective examines the way international organizations manage their human resources across different national contexts. How organizations manage their human resources across different national contexts. Just like I said earlier, a same corporation in Ghana with other, for now, branches in other countries cannot manage them the same. You go to India, you manage them as how employees are managed in India. You go to Canada, you manage employees as how they are supposed to be. Whatever labor laws, whatever leave policies and all that applies to the context you are managing people in. So we look at a type of organization, types of employees. Human resource activities, and then country of operation. Basically, it centers around this. What are the approaches to managing human resource management? International human resource management is captured in there. Have not, yes. Yes. There are three approaches to international human resource management. That is, if we are doing international human resource management, we should come from three perspectives. We look at it from cross-cultural management, a cross-cultural management perspective. We look at it from comparative industrial relations. Comparative industrial relations. Last semester, you did industrial relations, right? Yes. I've taught that course before. So I know the semester you read that course. Yes. Then we look at it from management of multinational firms. Management of multinational firms. Let's take on them one after the other. When we talk about cross-cultural management, it examines employee behavior, that is the human behavior within an organization, from an international perspective. Why does it work that way? Different cultures and how people behave in an organization. When you meet in an organization, especially in an organization that has branches, establishments at other places, there is a high possibility that there are other nationals in the organization. Everybody walk their culture, they behave their culture. That doesn't mean that we are not supposed to work together in harmony. So when we are talking about international human resource management, we look at the perspective of the cross-cultural management because we are managing people across different cultures. Their practices, their beliefs, and everything differ. Their view of things differ. So we are supposed to manage them accordingly. When we get to the inter-country differences, you get to know deeper into this one. Cross-cultural management. Because the cultures are different, different orientation, different cultural background, different attitude towards certain things, you see that we have a way of managing people. It doesn't work the same way as though you are all in your country of origin and then you are working. If you go to a typical Ghanaian firm, there's some kind of harmonization in culture. Everybody is somehow used to the other person's culture. Relatively, it is not difficult to manage a set of Ghanaians. Same as when you go to the UK, where all the people working are British, born, bred British, white. They have a way of behaving. They have a tailored perspective to things. So you see that when you are managing such employees, you don't have to struggle. Same with other countries. But the situation whereby in an organization, you have a Ghanaian present, you have an Arabian present, you have a British present, you have a Jamaican present, you can imagine the perspective. So international human resource management looks at how we manage those people who are crossing culture, cross-cultural management. Comparative industrial relations. When we are looking at comparative industrial relations, this one describes, compares, and analyzes human resource systems in various countries. How are the work patterns in your country? How does it differ from the work patterns in other countries? How do employers relate with employees in your country? How does managers relate to subordinates in your country? What are the laws governing employment in your country? That comes to play when we are looking at the comparative industrial relations. Then we look at management of multinational firm. Here, the focus is on management of multinational firms. That is a firm that has operations in different countries and finding universal principles that apply to operations in multinational firms across the world. There are some universal rules. One include, yes, because you did industrial relations, let me hear you. Some of the universal rules of engagement. Ima, universal rules, laws governing employment. What are some of the universal? Were you in that class? Let's hear you, Isaac.
We have the ILO.
You have the ILO. What does it state? What is it about?
It talks about the rules that govern the industrial relations of different countries.
Different countries. Okay. Did you come across something like freedom of association? Is it a global thing? Globally. These are some of the things that runs through every organization. There are laws, there are ethics governing every organization globally. One of some of the things that we are all moving by nowadays is how we are all going to achieve the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal. It's the global mandate, because we are all hoping to leave the world a better place for young ones that are yet to come. So, some of these phenomena, wherever you want to operate as a firm, it applies. Everybody is following the Sustainable Development Goals. That's why maybe if you are a high polluting firm, and you are trying to move to another country to establish your business, you get to the country and you see that they also have laws on pollution. Why? Because we are all working towards achieving a clean air, clean environment. Climate change is a global canker. That means wherever you want to operate, you still have to be governed by laws around environment and so on and so forth. So these and many more are universal principles that governs organizations. That means if you are managing a multinational firm, you should know these universal principles and also know principles that stick with particular countries. So these are the three approaches: cross-cultural management, comparative industrial relations, and then management of multinational firms. That is, if the firm is operating in more than one country, some universal principles exist. They go by that, and then they also look at what exists in the country they are operating. So we are looking now at the dimensions. There are three dimensions of international HRM. Three dimensions. There is something in international human resource management called a host country. A host country. When we say a host country is the country that is hosting your multinational firm's branch. For now, let's still use branch. So that becomes your host country. Then we have the home country. When we talk about the home country, that is where the business has its headquartered. That becomes the home country. Then we have something called the other countries. The other countries. What this means is that it is neither a host country or a home country. It becomes the other countries. These are key concepts we will be applying. And when we get to each point, you will understand where we are bringing what in. We spoke about staffing the global organization. So there are three types of employees for an international firm. We need to mention them, but we'll treat them into detail when we are doing staffing the global organization. This is the host country national. That means where the company is having its branch, the nationals there, they become your host country nationals. Then we have the second type, which is the home country nationals. That is where the parent company is located, where it is headquartered. That is where the home country national comes in. Then it brings us again to the third country national. That means an employee could come from a different jurisdiction either the host country or the home country to work for the organization. Let's take MTN as an example. If you are taking MTN, where is the home country? South Africa is the home country for MTN. Where are some of the host countries for MTN? MTN Nigeria, MTN Ghana, MTN Kenya, MTN Tanzania. It will interest you to know that truly they are walking their talk everywhere you go. When we're doing a PhD in China, we're still using mobile money and was working smoothly. You could receive money on your mobile money. So they may not have a branch in China, but everywhere you go indeed. When somebody is in the UK, they can receive Momo on their wallets. MTN everywhere you go. So now from here, we know home country and then host country. We have used MTN as an example. Third party come in where a person is coming from a different country either MTN Ghana or MTN South Africa, and the person is coming to look for job in any of the two places. It does happen. Typically, the reason we are teaching some of these courses, that means if there is Toyota Tanzania and they are advertising for a position, maybe HRM director, you don't stay there, neither are you a Japanese, but you can apply for the job. That makes you the third party country national here. So in staffing the global organization, multinational firm, the three, we'll delve deeper into it as we progress in the coming chapters. Okay, so globalization is now the new norm. Globalization is a new norm. Everybody is expanding. We are still on this chapter 1. Everybody is still expanding. Everybody is growing. It is there. Everybody is growing. Everybody is expanding. We are globalizing. That's why we hear something like the world is now a global village. Yes, we are expanding, we are growing. And your ability to be marketable is largely dependent on your human resource. Then again, we come back to it. From last semester, I'm sure we know the most valuable asset to an organization is the human resource. Same with international human resource management. If you want to compete favorably, it depends on how you are managing your human resource internationally. That means that if you choose to manage your human resource based on your decision, your preference, you may sink as an organization on the global stage. That is, if you have had still branches in other countries or you have other establishments in another country. Knowing how to manage your human resource becomes very essential to you as an organization. Why? Because there is that kind of free mobility of workforce. That's why somebody is working for a multinational firm today, tomorrow they have gotten a rich CV, so they want to switch. There's that mobility for employees as well. If I'm working for Philips today and I've gained rich experience, tomorrow if I see UN advertising, I will switch. That means it's not only jobs that can switch. Employees can also move. So there is that kind of mobility amongst employees. That makes it important for you to manage your employees well, because the least mistake you make, you lose your valuable employees to your competitors. So because of industrial movements, workforce mobility, migration into countries of operation, the labor force become a significant force for the success of an organization. That means you can't play with your employees. So when we talk about at the core of economic globalization is what we see: movement of labor, movement of finance, movement of goods and services between countries. So we see we going into countries to produce products, goods, and we bring them to our countries to sell. We can confidently say that largely the globe depends on China for production. So you see a lot of people going to China to import. That means we should know how to manage our employees. Globalization affects HRM in two ways. One, like I said earlier, there is the workforce mobility issue where workforce are able to move. So we focus on international recruitment. Workforce mobility forces companies to recruit internationally. Workforce mobility. It forces companies to recruit internationally. Because of the same workforce mobility, there is the need to look at retention, just like I gave the earlier scenario. Because of workforce mobility, I am working with a company, my CV becomes rich, I can switch to another company. That means international human resource management should focus on retention. How do you focus on retention? If employees want to stay and work for your organization, it largely depends on their satisfaction. Are they satisfied working for your organization? That is only the reason they may want to stay in the organization. How would they get satisfied? There are a number of things that goes into employee satisfaction. Do they feel motivated? Is the work rewarding them in three different ways: developmentally, psychologically, and financially? In that case, they want to stay. How do we reward employees developmentally? I don't know how many of you are on study leave. Maybe there are some of you on study leave. If you are on study leave, maybe your organizations are paying for your tuition. Maybe they are giving you some allowances for your transport. What have you? There are some that go full time on study leave into countries just to learn. These are examples of developmental opportunities an organization rewards its employees. So in an international organization, because of workforce mobility, it is necessary that you reward your employees developmentally. If they feel they are developed, they may want to stay with you. When will they stay with you? If they are developed, you have developed or helped them develop. When you have carefully put into place opportunities for growth for them. For instance, myself and Emmanuel are working for, let's say, Promasidol. And we see that in this Promasidol we are working. Tomorrow, if the position in Liberia becomes vacant, Promasidol Liberia becomes vacant, Emmanuel can be taken to head the place. If I also see that if the position in, say, Nigeria becomes vacant, I can't be taken to head the place, there's a possibility that I want to stay. But if you are developing me and you are not making me see the opportunities ahead of me, that is where the mobility will come in. If somebody has a relatively better offer for me, I would want to take the offer. So it is necessary to reward your employees, not only developmentally, but psychologically. How do we reward them psychologically? When we get to starting the global organization, you will get to know how we reward our employees psychologically. But basically, to touch on it, if there is something that you will do to your employee on the international phase that would affect them, even domestic HRM, that would affect them psychologically, that would mean the person may switch the job anytime. They feel that their emotions, their social well-being, their psychological well-being is triggered. They may want to switch their job. They may want to leave your organization. But where you are taking a decision that is going to affect them emotionally and you think twice on taking the decision. For instance, you want to take an employee to one of your subsidiaries in Australia, and we already have a notion that Australians and snakes, something like that. There are some parts of Australia where snakes abound. Even if you are in your home, they creep through the walls and all that. And you know that the person is a phobia of that. Of course, everybody, right? Yes. What you have to do is not to force the person to go. If you force the person to go, it is one other way you are not working on their psychological reward. Financially, we all know. So if an organization takes deliberate steps to do these three things for their international assignees, you see that there is high rate of retention. They are ready to stay and work in the organization. So with globalization, it is necessary because of the workforce mobility for the international firm or the multinational firm to look at retention and relation strategies. Relation strategies. You have done industrial relations. Yes. So you know about employee relations. How employer and employees relate. Every jurisdiction and their employee relations, how it impacts. So your ability to know all these things is crucial because of the workforce mobility. And more importantly, how you are tapping into, let's just say, how you are taking advantage of the rich knowledge you are getting from a home country, a host country, or a third party country. When you travel and you are supposed to stay around for a while, you have the opportunity to learn something from the culture you find yourself in. Same with organizations. When different people meet, different nationals meet, there are different perspectives to things. So as there is workforce mobility, an international firm, multinational firm, a global firm is supposed to take advantage of that and learn something new that is relevant to their organization and relevant to their practice in future. So when the economic globalization is making workforce move, you don't only look at how you get people into positions, you look at how you retain them through how you manage them, employee relations, through how you give them opportunities. If you do that, they are not going anywhere. And if you create an environment where your employees would want to learn from each other, there is harmony at the workplace and it affects the productivity of the organization. Okay. Inter-country differences effect on HRM. That's, yes, something we may look at. The next time, that's okay. Okay, so from, where is the book? Inter-country differences is what we will do next week, God willing. Let's look at page 5. Yes, we've looked at that. Okay, so let's see the parents or home country nationals. That's page 6, right? It still starts. We know that the parent country national Okay, so let's hear your question before we can continue. Let's hear your question so that we can hear you clearly. What is your question? You are being recorded.
Doc, my question.
What is your question?
Has to do with the study of international human relations. You spoke about
human resource management.
Human resource management.
Yes.
Where
you see where you begin to feel where you don't even know what the course is.
Where companies, multinational companies, have the advantage of employing employees all over,
yes,
apart from where it operates originally.
Yes.
The other aspect I'm trying to look at is if one is looking for employment with a qualification from another country in another country.
Come again. If one is looking for employment
with a qualification, for example, Ghana, a Ghanaian certificate.
That doesn't mean you are only qualified to practice in Ghana.
Yes.
Okay.
So if, let's say, you travel to the US with a particular qualification.
Cite typical scenario. A qualification in HRM, a qualification in management, a qualification in what?
Okay, either a qualification in AHRM, in education, right? One who has a qualification in AHRM.
Okay.
And then holds something in education that qualifies, the person qualifies to lecture. I want to take it from that point.
PhD.
Yes.
Okay.
And you travel to the US and there is a vacancy there, is the U.S. government recognizing the local certificate or qualification you have in the first place, let alone for you to qualify to apply. Talking about international, I don't know if you understand.
I understand you perfectly. I understand you perfectly. I want us to come before I come. What do we think? Especially, it happens to the healthcare professions. Mostly, you see that when they cross borders, one thing I know is that no matter where you do your medicine, you are not allowed to practice in the US, for instance. Why do we think some of these things come to play? I want us to discuss first before I come on board. My star girl.
Madam, I think it's because of the fact that it deals with human life. So if they give you the permission to work and then you are telling us this is what you know, we have to examine you before you be given or not to treat somebody, because it deals with human life. You might make a mistake that will cause somebody's life. So although you have the certificate, we have to examine you before you be allowed to practice in another country.
Thank you. Another perspective. She said because they deal with human life. The fact that you are holding the certificate doesn't mean you qualify. So they have to examine you to be sure that you qualify before they allow you to practice. What's your perspective?
Okay, Madam, I also think that it's not limited with only health. The other time I was trying to explore the possibility of using our certificate to work elsewhere. And I discovered that when you go to another country, you need to do some top-ups, right? Because of laws, differences in laws,
Thank you.
and others.
Basically, this is the reason.
Yeah.
We made mention earlier that every jurisdiction and how they go about their things.
Yeah.
That means if you move to a jurisdiction, the laws that apply there applies to you too.
That's right.
When we went to do PhD, the same school, there were a lot of African students and even Indians amongst others doing medical course to become doctors. As it stands, there are so many medical doctors who are products from China. They are doing well. I remember one of my juniors I saw, the country that is, they are very dark. It's not Senegal. I don't remember. The person was, thank you, Sudanese. I saw her video conducting a surgery, different jurisdiction and what they do. Typically in the Ghanaian context, you would have seen that Ghana would think that it's too early for a fresh foreign trained doctor to be conducting surgery. So with the video and then the picture, the caption was, "Thank God for a successful surgery." That is, if only she is the one that performed it. And I don't know if she's not the one, she has no business. It's not like some other people who want to be bragging. Some of them, they are true to themselves. So I believe she performed the surgery. That means maybe in her country, it doesn't take so much to qualify to practice. Again, maybe in a country, after your program, you wouldn't need other courses. You may need to write a licentiate to qualify. And maybe getting into writing the licentiate is not stressful. So as soon as possible, the person comes out, the person can be practicing. In the US, you may not be allowed to practice healthcare with a certificate you acquired from somewhere. Why? Because they feel healthcare systems in some countries, sorry to say, it's a joke. They see, they hear stories, avoidable deaths, healthcare professionals' attitude to
Patients.
patients. and we all agree how the situation is like. So if you want to come, your transcripts should do the talking. There are some grades, if you get, you can't be practicing. Because I remember I have a younger one pursuing nursing, and I have a sister, one after me is a nurse in the US. So what she's been telling the younger one pursuing the nursing is that you can't come to the US to practice nursing with these grades you are getting, even here. Before, we don't know this. It looks like we are more interested in certificate than what goes into the score. But in some jurisdiction, it is the details of your transcript and your performance at interview that keeps you going. So these are some of the dynamics that makes people not qualified to work in some countries, although you may be a third country national wanting to look for opportunities elsewhere. Some you may need to do some top-up courses like he mentioned. Why do you need to do that? To improve on your competencies. In a jargon way, to beef up your competencies. If you are able to excel through the courses, now they feel that you are qualified to practice within their jurisdiction per their work ethics and how work is supposed to be done. So you can't just get up to have a certificate, and because you have a certificate you want to go. No, there are certain things you need to meet. This is why when as lecturers we see students jubilating that if you are supposed to get an E and you get a D, it's an excitement. Really, they don't understand these dynamics.
What A can do, D can do better.
Maybe they'll be saying this, but this is we proving that in international human resource management, your transcript speaks volumes. One thing, and then you would need to go and take up some courses, top up to improve on your competencies to prove that you are worth it. That is why one other thing that is important in the postgraduate class is not for you to focus on certificates, but the knowledge we are impacting in here. Unless you are okay with where you are working and you have no thought of looking for other opportunities, let's say global opportunities. If a global opportunity is your target, then you have to pay attention to the content you are delivering. Why? So that in the case where you are supposed to be doing courses, writing exams, you can go and write and pass without stress. Where you are now going to take your books again to learn, even when we're teaching you. Just after one semester, ask yourself what you delivered. Not after, say till end of the semester. Ask yourself. Yes. So these are some of the reasons some of these things will occur. Do we have any other question before we continue? Okay. So we are going to look at the employees of international firm one after the other. One, we have mentioned earlier that the home country national. So such employee is called a PCN, that is a parent company national. Organizations may use somebody from their headquarters to go and manage one of their subsidiary. That's the key word here, the technical term, subsidiary. A branch, a subsidiary. In international human resource management, we call that a subsidiary and not a branch. So some organization can decide that, for instance, Toyota will decide that let's allow our Japan employees to come to, say, Ghana to manage Toyota key positions. That is how one way they decide to employ people to manage their foreign subsidiaries. Why do we think that organizations would want to use their parent company nationals to manage their subsidiaries? I want you to talk first and your brother will talk.
Madam, I also think that parent is the parent. They have the original ingredients or the original information.
I like the original ingredients.
Yes. The first-hand information.
Thank you.
To be able to at least lift up the subsidiary companies elsewhere. So that is my perspective.
That's your perspective.
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear your perspective too.
I also think the parent country nationals understand the business of the company. For instance, let's look at the pharmaceutical companies in Ghana. Example, SK.
SK?
Yes.
Okay.
SK has its, how do you call it, their main office in Ghana,
okay.
But it's an Indian managing it.
Okay. Okay. And where is the parent company?
They don't have any parent company. It is established in Ghana, but it's an Indian company.
It's an Indian company, yes. Established in Ghana.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So their first branch is that of what we have in Ghana. Yes. Okay. What other perspective? Why do you think that organizations may want to use their parent company nationals to manage their company?
In my point of view, they don't want maybe China Toyota to be different from Ghana Toyota. It should be from the same equipment being used outside and here.
Okay. Thank you. For quality control issues, just like she mentioned, and our brother earlier said, they have the main ingredients. They know how the company was birthed, the goals, the processes, the procedures. They might have also gone through a series of training to make them well positioned to manage their subsidiaries, though they qualify to manage the subsidiaries. Usually, when it is coming from the parent company, the goal of whoever is coming to manage the subsidiary is aligned to that of the parent company. They know the goals, they share in the visions, they share in the vision, they share in the mission of the parent company. They have the goals at heart. So when they are managing, they ensure that followed procedures are done religiously. What is supposed to be done in the parent company is exactly what they would be doing here. They wouldn't be doing things differently. They make sure employees stick to lay down procedures that would make the organization achieve its goals. That is one of the reasons an organization may want to use the parent country national. Can we give ourselves an example of a company that is using a parent company national, country national, to manage a subsidiary? Melcom. Where is the parent company of Melcom? Malaysia.
Some positions are there, you can't, the Ghanaian can't occupy that position.
Okay, so yes. And the caution, when they are using the parent company nationals, they make sure they come to occupy key positions, not the basic ones. It's the key positions that people may maneuver their way around. So we typically have an example of Belcom. We also have ShopRite.
DSTV.
Where is the
South Africa.
South Africa? Okay.
MTN.
MTN, who is the country manager? Is it a South African? Right. So they want to make sure that we are following through procedures and processes. China Mall, where is the headquarters? Franchise. Those who did international business, I'm sure you heard about something called franchise. Yes. All the KFC we see are not owned by those at the headquarters. It's a franchise. Yes. Okay, so Total, Shell, they are all franchise. Even Goil, that sits in Ghana, there's franchise. Okay, so who is the country manager or director for EcoBank? Okay. Then another reason is for technical and managerial experience. What we said earlier. Control and coordination is maintained if we use the parent company nationals. Control and coordination is maintained. Again, because of communication barrier, language. What language do the Japanese speak? Because of communication barrier, organizations decide to use the parent company nationals so that they can be effective liaison between them and then the parent company. So typically they may need a bilingual person to do this so that they can communicate effectively between the two. It is also of the belief that they have they are the best people with the best skill for the job. That's why they use them. And all in all, there is some form of assurance that if they bring the parent company national, the subsidiary, that is the branch, will comply with the company's objectives, policies, mission, vision, and so on and so forth. Because typically, when we get to intercountry differences, that is when you will understand some of these things. When the culture is different in a country, they want to manage their company in a way that suits their culture. Maybe some of us are not in class today because they are going for funeral. Etc. But we'll get to know this when we get to intercountry difference. So to avoid some of these things, they decide to use the parent company national to come and manage the organization so that there is what they desire. People follow through procedures and processes. The goals and mission objectives are attained. Technical expertise are used at its best, and then the organization is able to thrive and survive. Why would a company use the host country national? Here, we made mention earlier. If there is a host country national, the person is a Ghanaian working for a company subsidiary in Ghana. When we go to Liberia, the person is a Liberian working for Promasidor, Liberia. That means the country, the people, then we employ them to work in there. Do we think that there are any reasons an organization may want to use the host country national?
Can a cost of training also be
The what?
a cost of
The
training?
cost of training
be a reason for?
Okay. Maybe the cost of training, even in the language and how to go about things in the country, is one of the reasons an organization may decide to use the host country national. And then again, when we are mentioning cost comes because it is cost effective to use a domestic national to work for your organization. Why? Because if you are bringing somebody from the parent company, relatively it's expensive. If I asked you why you want to work for a foreign company in a different country, it's because it pays relatively higher. All that comes with it makes it expensive. So if there are equally qualified people, then why don't we use them to cut down the cost? Okay, let's hear you.
Madam, it's also about job security.
Job
You need
security.
to certify local content act. We have every country, we have the local content act that mandates industries a percentage of local employees that are expected to work in that company.
Okay.
So it's a rule.
Yes. There are laws governing this. If you come and establish your company in another country, there are laws telling you the percentage of employees you should take from the organization. So sometimes they do this to comply with those kind of laws a country has. What again is the reason? Give it to your brother. Why would a multinational firm and international firm want to use a host country national to run the company?
Madam, I think it's the laws.
Apart from the laws, what again? Because your brother just said laws. So apart from the laws, what again?
Sometimes they want to cut down costs.
Apart from cutting down costs,
it's cheaper hiring a local person.
Yes, that is still cost cutting. Beyond that, what again?
Japan, I think maybe if the organization is being established in Kumasi, apart from trust, they want if the locality, the people in the when the when Ghanaians are part of the organization, it helps people to participate more.
Clap for him for me. The way he has used energy to explain.
The fellow was given to me by force. So.
Yes. Even my undergraduates, I do that to them. When you least expect, the microphone is coming to you. Okay. Because if we use the local or the domestic nationals, host country nationals, it is an easy way for us to connect with the community and enter smoothly. They know people, they are familiar with the culture, they know what they want and what they do not want. That's what you are going to say. That's not what they were going to say. Say something else. I've said it.
It helps build good relationship
Yes,
with the both
there is
countries.
that cordial relationship with them. They know how to get their people activated to patronize the organization. So when they use that, the host country nationals, they are able to penetrate into the market easily. Okay, it helps them to understand things as well. Yes, I want you to tell me what you were telling him.
Madam, the local people, when they explain things to their own people,
Yeah.
they can easily get it more than the foreigners.
Yes. When the local people are explaining things to their own people, because of cultural perspective, language, they are able to explain better, they are able to come to their level to make them understand better what their products and services are about. So it becomes easy for them. That's how they penetrate through the market. Emma, why will an organization use host country nationals?
Because they understand their culture and then their dynamics very well.
They understand the dynamics and the culture very well.
Yes.
Third country nationals. I am not from Nigeria. I am not from South Africa. I am from Cote d'Ivoire. But I want to work for MTN Nigeria. That makes me the third country national. I don't come from the host country, neither do I come from the home country. That's what we said earlier. But there are vacancies and I feel I can apply. If I am employed, that makes me the third country national. Why do we think that organizations would want to adopt this approach?
Doc, in my view, it might be a unique skill that such an
Thank you.
individual has.
When you are teaching in an MBA class, you don't have to struggle. You see, when they take the microphone, they say what you want to hear. That's why some of the professors, they want to teach postgraduate alone. No. If I had the luxury, I want postgraduate and weekend students. Because they are already on the field, they have the experience, so they can relate. There are specialized skills that may be absent in both jurisdictions. In that case, it is in order to bring a third country national on board, especially where it is very difficult to find them on the labor market. There are still some courses that we are not reading. That's why, for instance, maybe we have our oil, but other countries have to come and help us to extract. That means third country nationals would always be useful in multinational and international HRM. They are useful because their expertise may be what you don't have as a firm. So you have to fall on them so that you tap into their expertise to manage some unique operations you are struggling to find a placement for. What again is the reason? I want you to talk. You wanted to talk. Yes, when you finish, you will talk.
To learn from other people.
To learn from other people. Help us explain that.
But a scenario that you used, if maybe Madam Rita is the one to came there, since it's coming from a different country and also gain a different knowledge, people there can also learn from her.
Once a third party national comes on board, yes, maybe they bring a different perspective, a beautiful perspective, and that brings some kind of fresh knowledge to the organization, and the other nationals can learn from them. So home country and then host country nationals can both learn from the person coming from the third country.
Sometimes cheap labor
Thank
can
you.
also.
It is affordable to use them compared to the home country national. Maybe they have same expertise, but it is cheaper for you to bring the one who is from the third country to work for you, either than to bring somebody from the parent company. So because of labor cost, organizations find that it is cost effective to use a third country national, not necessarily cheap labor. It is just cost effective to use that person instead of using somebody from the parent company. Besides, the person may have the expertise you really need, and it cuts down the cost for you. What other reason?
They may adapt quickly due to their international exposure.
Okay, they may adapt quickly due to their international exposure. Maybe, like we made mention earlier, workforce mobility. Because of workforce mobility, in international human resource management, people can keep switching jobs. So it is possible that they might have worked in a country of a subsidiary before, and they know the way around things. So when you employ them, it is easier for them to adjust, especially if they are people who were working for a different company in the country. I am a Ghanaian. I go to the Netherlands to study law. I land on my first job in a law firm, let's say a global firm, as a lawyer. And as I work with them to gain experience, I get another opening in the same Netherlands for another global firm. So let's just say I decide to switch from Philips to another global firm. I am a third country national. I am not a national of the Netherlands. I am neither a national of where Philips is headquartered and then the new one. But because of the experience and global exposure, I would be in the best position to take up the role. And then again, if I take up the role, it becomes relatively cheaper for you than you bringing somebody from the home country national company, the parent company, so to say. Are there any disadvantages to using any of these? I think from the advantages we found of everyone, the advantage of using a parent company national remains an advantage to the company. But then the advantage of using the host country national becomes a disadvantage of using the parent company national. If you are using them, there's that cultural shock, cultural barrier, adjustments. Yes, it is expensive. It is expensive. The person may struggle to have the coordination because people may oppose and reject to their way of doing things. And usually because of how much they receive as their compensation and what goes into their benefits, their lifestyle is usually a lavish one. And that becomes a huge cost on the organization. As we progress to delve deeper into this in the coming chapters, you see that in assigning people on as a global assignment, family decisions come in. So one particular issue that becomes a problem for using a parent company national is that family adjustment issues. Family adjustment issues. When we get to staffing the global organization, we'll look at that into details. Are there any disadvantages to using the host country national? Familiarity breeds content. They are so familiar with everything around them. So they may want to manage the organization in a way that may not work for you. The sociocultural issues and so on and so forth. Today, my uncle is dead, I want to go for funeral. Okay, go. Tomorrow, my friend's husband is dead, I want to go for funeral. Oh, go. My sister's husband is dead, I want to go and stay with her for a while. Okay, go. Why? We will learn about all these things in the coming chapter. It's because of sociocultural orientation. So there is a particular topic on this that would educate us on some of these things. So if we use them, it comes as a disadvantage because they are too familiar with the terrain, political, legal environment. You see them pressing corners and then lobbying here and there to get something that may be of disadvantage to the firm. What other disadvantage? What other disadvantage do we have? They may not want to return to their home country. That is to do with the parent company national. They may not want to return to their country. This France ambassador to Ghana, the lady who was enjoying Ghana so much, what was her name? Ade something. Oh, she's one of the most vibrant ambassadors Ghana has ever had. She was everywhere with the celebrities. She was really enjoying Ghana. And Sofiavi, that's her name. And Sofiavi. Anne was so comfortable in Ghana to the extent that she wanted to remain. It does happen with some multinationals. She felt Ghana was home. She wanted to be around. Yes, she's not here. She moved back to her country. But you felt, yes, this woman is enjoying the country. Some multinationals come to enjoy the country so much that they don't want to go back to their country. That is why when you are using people from parent company, it becomes an issue. It also is to do with the host country. third country nationals. They may not also want to go back to their country, especially if their country is not a place that is economically doing well. They want to stay around after the assignment to look for other opportunities. So the struggle to go back to their country is another issue. What other disadvantages comes with using the host country national? Okay, so where there is a language barrier, if you are using a host country national to manage a key position, then communication becomes a problem. When we get to staffing the global organization properly, we are going to look at what organizations need to do in this context, and then we'll discuss if it is really cost effective then. So until then, I think that we want to touch on the surface of all these things. When we are going to treat staffing the global organization, we will look much into these things. Do we have any questions for me today? Okay. Okay. I like the way you were quiet throughout, but you are talking.
Can airline workers, employees, be classified as third country nationals?
Can they be?
Like air hostess and an air host?
What do we think? Is there can
Maybe
air hostess and the pilots?
Yes. Moving from countries to
because they are moving from country to country. Do we classify them as third country nationals? Yes, what do you think, Ima?
I think they are not third party national because
Okay.
they are working for their company, not their country.
Okay. They are working for their company, not the country they are flying to. It's an airline. When you take Ethiopian airline, for instance, they are mostly Ethiopian nationals. May God rest their soul, those who crashed. They are hostess I had been seeing back to back because when I was a student, I was using that airline. So they are air hostess I know. I was seeing them. So sometimes they flash. You remember how they used to behave on board. Then you think through why did this thing happen to them. They are Ethiopians working for Ethiopian airline. That makes them a home country national or parent company nationals. The fact that they are flying to another country doesn't mean they are working for that country. They are still working for their airline. On condition that the airline had its subsidiaries in other countries, that's different. But those are the ticketing booths, those who take you through the check-in processes. They are always the host country nationals. So you have Ghanaians working for Ethiopian Airlines, same with other airlines. I observed that some airlines do a international firm. We'll get to know this more. They don't have their employees, the hostess, from one country. you see that they are mixed. They are from different countries and they are the cabin crew. So if it happens like that, for those people who are not from the country where the airline is established, they become the third company nationals. But in a scenario like British Airways, where most of them, all of them, are British nationals, Ethiopian Airline and all those things, we see them as parent company nationals and not third country nationals. What's the other question we have for me today? Okay.
Please, with the third party countries, I want to ask.
Third country national.
Third country national.
We are always confusing ourselves, I know. Back to back, we have been experiencing this year on, year out.
Third country nationals. I want to ask, as employees, when you go to other countries, you need to learn their language for some couple of months before they can employ you. Is it a cost to the employee with the third country nationals? I just want to ask.
Okay. Usually, we are talking from the perspective of you saw the vacancy as you sit in your country and you decided to apply. Not because maybe you have migrated and you are staying in the country and you want to. That also makes you a third country national. But largely, if you want to be treated as an international assignee, it stems from the fact that you saw the offer online. You saw the job advertisement and you decided to apply. So in that case, you are neither from the host or the home country and you decided to apply.